What's the most ridiculous uniform violation you've witnessed? My platoon had this private, Danny Walsh, who thought regulations were more like suggestions. Guy was constantly pushing boundaries, but what he did during our formal inspection still makes me laugh. We were preparing for the battalion commander's annual review. Full dress uniform, everything perfect. White gloves, spit-shined boots, ribbons aligned with military precision. This was career-defining stuff. Walsh shows up looking immaculate. Perfect creases, flawless tie, boots you could see your reflection in. Even our hardest sergeant nodded approval. Finally learning Walsh, formation begins. 300 soldiers standing at attention. General visiting from division headquarters. Photographers documenting everything for the base newsletter. That's when Walsh started sweating. Not normal nervousness, profuse dripping sweat. In December in Alaska, while everyone else was freezing, Sergeant Major notices. Walsh, you feeling all right? You're sweating like a pig. Just nervous, Sergeant Major. This is important. 20 minutes into the ceremony, Walsh's uniform started changing colors. His pristine white dress shirt was turning bright pink, then red, then purple. The dye was bleeding through his skin, his neck, his hands, his face. He looked like he was morphing into a rainbow. Turns out Walsh had gotten a massive tattoo 3 days before inspection. Full back piece, both arms, chest work, fresh ink, still healing. Against regulations, but he figured nobody would see it under the uniform. Problem was, he'd used some sketchy tattoo shop downtown. Cheap ink, poor technique. The dye was literally leaking out of his pores and staining everything it touched. His white gloves were tie-dyed, his collar was purple. There were actual droplets of colored sweat hitting the ground. The battalion commander stops mid-speech. Sergeant Major, is that soldier bleeding? Negative, sir. He appears to be sweating rainbows. The general walked over personally, took one look at Walsh's Technicolor transformation and started laughing. Son, what in God's name did you do to yourself? Walsh tried to explain, but he was dripping so much dye he looked like a melting crayon. His speech was slurred because the ink was affecting his tongue and lips. Medical got called. They documented everything. Photos of Walsh looking like a human mood ring. His uniform completely ruined, skin stained for weeks. But the real kicker? The tattoo itself was a disaster. The artist had spelled Semper Fi wrong. It said Semper Fiu across his chest, in giant letters, permanently. Walsh got written up for destruction of government property, unauthorized body modification, and conduct unbecoming. Lost a rank, forfeited pay, extra duty for 2 months. Had to wear long sleeves for 6 months while the staining faded. Couldn't go to the beach, pool, or gym without looking like he'd escaped from a paint factory. The tattoo shop got investigated. Turns out they were using industrial dye mixed with regular ink, dangerous chemicals that weren't meant for human skin. 3 other soldiers had similar reactions. Walsh eventually got the tattoo fixed. Cost him $3,000 and multiple sessions. Still has slight discoloration where the bad ink was removed. The story became legendary. Every new soldier gets warned about Walsh's rainbow incident. Photos are still hanging in the Sergeant Major's office as a cautionary tale. Walsh re-enlisted eventually, made corporal, learned to follow regulations, but he still turns slightly pink when he exercises too hard. The dye never completely left his system. The general who witnessed it wrote about Walsh in his memoir, called it the most colorful uniform violation in military history. Now Walsh works as a tattoo artist himself, ironically. Uses only high-quality ink and refuses to work on anyone in uniform. Trust me, he tells them. Wait until you're out.